Hi, I'm Rick Conlow. Did you know one positive thought and corresponding action can literally change your life? That's what we're going to talk about. 4 steps to maximize your potential and success. Now, I realize it can be tough out there. Scientists say that the universe is made up of protons, neurons, and electrons. And they forget to mention morons. Wouldn't you agree? And they also say that a positive attitude may not solve all your problems, but it will annoy enough people to make it worth your effort. That sometimes could be a good thing. But you know, really, your attitude is like a price tag. It shows how valuable you are. And that's what we want to work on as we go forward. In fact, we kind of got to be like the Minions. I mean, in some respect. You know, the Minions are the cartoon and TV series, and they work for the most awful, despicable boss in the universe. But they do all that he says, and they charge out there to do all his biddings. But there's one of them that I came across a quote, and he said this. I think it was Stuart, the one with the one eye. And he said this: chocolate comes from cocoa, which is a tree. That makes it a plant. Chocolate is therefore salad. Hey, don't you like that attitude? Sometimes we got to be able to work at turning things around. Just like these people here. Richard Branson had dyslexia, and he failed in his early business attempts. But today he has a multi-billion-dollar Virgin Airlines company and other organizations within it. J.K. Rowling was on welfare and raising her children by herself, but she had a talent for writing, and she did it. And now she's famous and a billionaire for the Harry Potter series. And then there was Jerry Seinfeld. And Jerry Seinfeld, you know, when he first did his comedy routine, his first try at it, he froze on stage. He couldn't say anything, and he walked away in humiliation. But today he's one of the most well-known comedians in the world. And Bill Gates early on failed with his business partner in a business. And so it didn't look like it was going to work, but they kept on keeping on. Their attitude strengthened them. They learned something, and they moved on. So we're going to zero in on 4 success practices. And by the way, I want to share with you that below this video here, you can have access to a 90-plus page success practices self-assessment and guidebook. Take advantage of this to reinforce what I talk about here and to assess your success habits as it relates to others who have achieved remarkable things. So, what is success after all? It's been said in this world that it's the accomplishment of predetermined, hard-to-reach goals while bringing the greatest value. So you got to give something in return. You put in the effort and the work, and then you make a difference for the others, for the world, for a customer, or for other people. So we'll use that as our baseline in terms of what success is. And then keep in mind, we need to start on having some belief in ourselves. Emerson said the first step to success is self-esteem, or believing in yourself really becomes one of the key secrets. So we want to work on that. Now, the truth is, our success comes from our habits. And where do our habits come from? Our habits come from our behavior, and behavior are the things that we do over and over again. And it becomes our behavior because it's repeated and reinforced. Now, the thing we need to remember is that a behavior can be positive or negative. Our negative behaviors hold us back. I mean, we're doing them because we've repeated behaviors related to those negative behaviors, and for some reason we get some pleasure or comfort in them, but they're holding us back. They're keeping us from doing the things that we think about in our mind, or the dreams that we have, or the goals that we visualize. Positive behaviors move us forward. And I'm going to focus on 4 positive behaviors that you can learn today. Maybe you have parts of these now. I'll define them in some detail, and then you can use the material that I talked about to take it to the next level. So, the first behavior is build on your successes. Now, unfortunately, one of the things that happens to all of us is our negatives are reinforced. You know, I remember my father used to say to me, "Rick, are you ever going to amount to anything?" As if I wasn't anything at that point in time. Do you know what I'm talking about? And one of the first words that children learn is no. So the negative is reinforced. What I'm talking about here is building on your successes. So here's how you do it. First, reflect on your successes. What have you done well? What have you achieved? What have you accomplished? What have you learned? Write that down. And then as you do, and it's important to write it down because then we own it. It's like a contract. It's commitment. And then we can reflect on these and take credit for them. Celebrate those. Feel good about those. Remember them. Get them in your mind. Not the things that you've made mistakes on. Not the things that you have failed at. I'm talking about your successes here. Take credit. And in the future, continue to take credit. If you take a course, celebrate. Go out to dinner. Okay? If you learn a new skill, to yourself. You don't have to, have a crowd cheering for you or anything, but feel good about it. That's what I'm talking about. Celebrate the things that you do well. And then isolate. What are those things you need to do that are most important to you in a job, say, or a career, a business that you own, where you need to focus and learn to do those even better so that you can build on that success that's gotten you there so far. And then the other point related to building on my successes is embrace accountability. What that means is you got to own it. It's you. Okay? You're going to do it. Yes, you may have some people around you that support you and encourage you, and that's all important. But when it's all said and done, you've got to be able to take the step. You've got to think the thought. And that's what we're talking about here. So reflect, take credit, isolate, embrace. That's what building successes is all about. Let's go on to the next area. Address your self-limiting behaviors. Now what this is we all have things we don't do as well. Notice I don't say weaknesses, okay? Because a lot of times we say weaknesses, I can never learn to get better. No, sometimes we just don't know something because we lack some knowledge or skill, or we don't do well at it because we have lacked the competence. So first, identify what you're doing now instead. What are you doing now? What do you need to do to be more effective? For example, I had a salesperson that worked for me. He was good at presenting. He was good at knowledge of the product, but he wasn't good at closing. He just had a hard time with confronting, so he wouldn't say, will you buy today? So he really had to work on that. So he had to isolate that behavior and look at what he did well and then isolate what he needed to do better and put a plan together, which is the next area then, so that you can change deliberately. See, there's only two ways to change. One way you change is to deliberately, purposely set a goal. That's what we're talking about here. The other way is you get forced to, backed into a corner. That's hard. That's difficult, and it's often under horrendous circumstances. So identify what it is you're doing, what you need to do differently. Plan a change, like I described in my example, then do it. Try it. Practice it. You won't do it great right away, but if you do it again and again, remember, behavior needs to be repeated and reinforced. You'll get better at it. One of the things, for example, in my communication skills that if I'm not careful, is that when people are talking to me, I get excited about what I want to say and then I'll talk over them. So I'll interrupt them. So whenever I do training sessions, whenever I read material, I remind myself about that and it helps me do a better job. That's what we're talking about. So then get reinforcement. Reinforcement could be reading new material, reading a book, listening, seeing other videotapes, maybe a person that you can work with that will help you. So identify it, plan it, do it, get reinforcement. It'll help you do what you need to do. And then the last point I want to share is overlearn on this area. So it isn't a developmental area now, it becomes a strength for you. And it'll move you forward. So you really work on it that hard to be successful. So, third area, mentor others. I say use the Luti method, and I'll share with you what that means. And what this is about is transcending the competition that you face in the world, being able to make a positive contribution and difference. In other words, if you want to be successful, help other people be successful, and you'll be successful. Because what will happen is you'll get support, encouragement, ideas, thoughts, maybe backing that you never had before because you're going out of your way to do it for others. And the thing of it is, a lot of times when we help others, we help ourselves because we learn best what we need to teach most. Now here's what the Luti method means. Learn it, use it, teach it, inspect it. So remember, this piece is about mentoring. So we learn something, get good at. You could take one of your self-limiting behaviors, say like my salesperson that had to work on closing skills, really learn it, practice it, role play it, read the book, go to seminars, watch videos, get feedback on it, and then start using it, and then get in a situation to mentor somebody and teach them how to do it. And you get even better at it while you're teaching. And then inspect it means to check and see how you're doing. How much progress have I made? What's working? What isn't working? What am I going to do differently or better moving forward? So it's a continuous cycle of reinforcing, reviewing, and emphasizing what you need to do to be successful in whatever area of life or goal that you're working on. And then the last area I'm excited about sharing, it says seizing the future. In other words, avoid being doomed, because anytime we learn something new or are trying to get to the next level, we'll have setbacks. Just like the people I mentioned to you earlier. They have setbacks, and that doom and gloom can get on us and we can get down. It happens to all of us, the best of us. And so, we got to continue on. We've got to remind ourselves that what can we learn from that? Not that we failed, but what can we learn? So if we switch that around, like switching a channel in our mind from failure to learning, we avoid that doom attitude and then create new opportunities. In other words, look for new ways to do things, new places, new people to meet, new books to read, new situations to put yourself in. I'm a shy person, and the only way I've been able to get up in front of other people and talk, hundreds, thousands of presentations, is I put myself there. I found the opportunities to do it. First I volunteered, then people start paying me. And then you get that reinforcement I talked about before. And then set big goals, stretch goals, big-ass goals, if you will, that, shakens you a little bit in terms of what's possible. Because the thing of it is, if I set my goal here, or right here, I should say, and then I get right there, I'm kind of down here. But if I set my goal there and I get there, guess what? I'm further than I thought I would be. You see what I'm talking about? See, I say success is not just about accomplishing predetermined goals that we talked about before, but it's a state of being. Success is not the destination or even a journey. It's who you are inside that matters most. It's kind of like James Dyson. He worked for Hoover and got disappointed with his work there. He was in his early 30s, and he had an idea that maybe there's a better way to make a vacuum cleaner. And he tried it, and he built it on his own. He studied, he learned, he created something, got it done, and couldn't get anybody interested in it, and he was really failing. But he stuck with it, and that was a period of 5, 6, 7 years. And he kept at it, created again, tried it, had many trial and errors to make this new vacuum cleaner with different kind of suction in it. And lo and behold, guess what? He went to a conference in Japan, and they tried it out there, and they loved it. He won an award, and so he started a company, and he built it from the ground up. And wow, he had tremendous success. And over a period of 10, 15, 20 years, today he's got a multi-billion-dollar industry. Do you know how many failures Dyson confronted in his career to get to the point where he could be successful? Success is often built on mistakes that we learn from, on failures that we learn from. Now remember, you've got that Success Practices Guidebook and assessment, so make sure you go down there, click on it, and it can be yours for reinforcing the 4 habits that we talked about today. Remember this, if it is to be, it's up to me. Yes, get people around you who support you, but you've got to take action. You've got to think the thought. I have this premonition that soars on golden wings. I visualize your achievements and your legacy that sings. I do not know all about your awesome goals or your persistent efforts to raise the bar. I only know you can be the best, a superstar.